Trash-free flight takes off in Australia. This spring, passengers on a Wednesday morning flight from Sydney to Adelaide, Australia, were greeted in the usual way, the flight attendant telling them to place larger bags in overhead compartments, smaller ones under their seats. But then the flight attendant tacked on an unexpected announcement at this time: "Would like to invite you to sit back and enjoy the world's first zero-waste flight. We certainly hope." Aviation history? The world's first. That means that all paper, plastic and aluminum, and food items that will be serving you today will be either composted, recycled or reused, the flight attendant said. Greenhouse gases aren't the only significant waste airlines produce. Although single-use, Qantas says it produces about 30,000 tons of waste per year. And the Australian. This flight was the first, I guess you could call, laboratory. There were 1,000. This flight was the first, I guess you could call, laboratory, said Andrew Parker, the group executive for government, industry, international and sustainability with Qantas. There were 1,000, that included everything from plastic stirrers to individualized salt and pepper containers. Altogether, why we're doing it, I think, is the critical question, Parker said. We really feel it's, of course, one of the biggest environmental impacts of flying. May not be things like plastic stirring straw, it's the carbon dioxide from burning all that jet fuel. But that's a separate, to deal with on-flight waste. Qantas is also experimenting with new types of packaging, including gammeal containers made from sugarcane and silverware from corn starch. To make the new carts allow flight attendants to separate compost from recycling and lingering fragments of trash brought on board by passengers. In a normal flight, for an airline to pull off a near zero waste flight, the redesign also has to go well beyond what happens in the sky. You've got to have the systems in place to get the waste off the flight at the end, and basically directed to composting anaerobic digestion, said Susan Zelka, director of the School of Packaging at Michigan State University. If you don't have, and if you're talking about an airline that's going to be landing in places all over the world, you have to have these systems in place everywhere that the plane is going to offload the waste, Zelka said. That's why Qantas is taking things slowly. The airline has these guys fly immensely complex machines around the world in all sorts of weather and land them and organize their logistics, said Hiscox, adding that separating composting from recycling is no big technical challenge for an airline. Hiscox is also working with Qantas on getting greener, helping the airline with its carbon offsetting program. He says they're working with their suppliers to figure out how long it will take to meet their demand. Hiscox said, for some of this niche compostable, bioplastic stuff, there's not a big supplier base out there at the moment. But if other airlines follow Qantas' lead, and Hiscox believes other airlines will follow Qantas' example, as airline competitors tend to do, that could help drive a market for things like specialized bioplastics. With a big caveat, there were some small inconveniences on that one flight. Qantas said in-flight service was slightly delayed, perhaps taking 10 extra minutes, as flight attendants figured out the new systems. I am sure some customers complained or grumbled like, "Where's my whatever, where's my single-serving milk?" Hiscox said, the airline says it will try another zero-waste test flight later in the year, with the ultimate goal of reducing 75% of its waste by the end of 2021.
Raindrop, drip, drop top, top smoking, no cooking the hot pot. Fucking on your bitch, yeah, that.